If you've ever wondered what it's like to have everything you've known, your freedom, your luck, your trust in the world, completely upended, picture this. I was hundreds of miles from home, trapped in a foreign jail with no clue if I'd ever see my friends or the sun again. And trust me, things got even more intense from there. That first night was the slowest, longest night of my life. Between the heat, the itchiness of the bench, and the dread pounding in my chest, I barely slept more than 10 minutes at a time. My mind raced in an endless loop. How did we end up here? Would we get out? Would anyone believe us? The next morning, a guard brought me a stale roll and a plastic cup of water, then marched me down a hallway to a bare room with a table and 2 chairs. On the other side sat 2 officers, a young one who spoke some English and another who looked like he hadn't smiled in a decade. They started firing questions, first in Spanish, then broken English once I told them, "No hablo mucho español." They wanted to know who Tomas was. Did we know anything about what was in the bag? Why had we gone upstairs after midnight? Who gave us the drugs? I couldn't answer anything that would help. We're tourists. We didn't know anything about drugs. That bag isn't ours. They frowned, skeptical, and repeated the same questions like they were waiting for me to slip up. Eventually, they let me return to the cell, where I found Lydia curled up in a corner, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She'd already been through her first round of questioning and was close to breaking down. They kept asking if I was smuggling for Tomas. They didn't believe me, not at all. "I'm so scared, I want my mom." We hadn't seen Priya or James since the night before. I started to panic that maybe they'd been separated, or worse, that one of them was being blamed as the ringleader. My mind tortured me with worst-case scenarios. A few hours later, though honestly time had no meaning in there, I was woken by shouting. A guard barked, "You phone," and shoved an ancient flip phone into my hands. I dialed my mom's number with shaking fingers, and when she answered, just started sobbing. Trying to explain what happened through snot and tears was the hardest phone call of my life. "Mom, I'm in jail." "No, I'm not joking. We didn't do anything, I promise. Please help us." She went full mama bear, demanding to talk to the guards, threatening to call the consulate, promising to move heaven and earth until I was home. That call was a lifeline, but it didn't solve anything in the moment. The guards returned us to our cells. Another endless night crawled by. On the second morning, a local lawyer appeared, sent by my parents' frantic calls to the US Embassy. His English was perfect, his suit a little too crisp for the grimy station. He told us what we feared. With drugs involved, even if it was a small amount and even if it wasn't ours, we could be facing serious charges if we couldn't prove our innocence. "You must stick to your story and let me do the talking. Don't sign anything you don't understand." That afternoon, as if things couldn't get worse, James was finally brought back to our cell. He looked awful, pale, eyes wild, lips trembling. "Guys, they said I could get 5 years, he whispered, voice breaking. "I didn't do anything, I swear." Priya arrived soon after, almost in shock, face streaked with tears. It felt like the walls were closing in on us. Just when we were losing hope, our lawyer rushed in, waving his phone excitedly. "There's a development," he said. "The police have reviewed some security footage. They found something you all need to see." He explained that, thankfully, the bar and the alley had cameras. After pressure from both the embassy and my parents, who were calling everyone from senators to travel bloggers to get attention on our case, the footage had finally been pulled. We waited, hearts in our throats, as the police reviewed the grainy video. It showed not just us following Tomas to the rooftop, but also a group of locals, Tomas and his friends, sneaking back into the bar after leading us out. A few minutes later, Tomas and one of the bar staff were seen dumping several similar baggies behind the bar and, crucially, stuffing one into James' backpack while he was in the bathroom. We watched, stunned, as all the pieces clicked into place. Tomas and his crew had used us as decoys, distracting the police from their own larger operation by making a few clueless tourists look guilty. The police were furious, but their anger wasn't directed at us anymore. It was at Tomas and the bar. Within hours, Tomas and another guy were arrested. The police grilled us one last time and finally, after 2.5 days in that awful jail, cleared us to leave. I have never felt such overwhelming relief and exhaustion all at once. Our lawyer brought our passports, and an embassy rep arrived to walk us out. The sun outside hurt my eyes. The 4 of us stumbled into the street, blinking, half laughing and half crying, hugging each other like we'd been away for years. We spent one more night in a cheap hotel near the airport. None of us slept. We just sat in a circle talking through every terrifying moment, every close call, how close we'd come to disaster. Lydia was still shaking. James was apologizing over and over. If I'd just left my backpack on the table. But we all tried to reassure each other. We'd been victims, not criminals. The flight home was the quietest I've ever experienced. Nobody complained about the crying baby or the broken tray table. I thought about the warnings. Don't follow strangers, never leave your stuff unattended, trust your gut, stick together. All the basic rules we'd thrown out because we were young and invincible. When we landed, our families were waiting in the arrivals hall, sobbing and hugging us like we'd come back from the dead. We gave statements to the embassy, then basically crawled into bed and didn't move for days. It wasn't easy to shake the trauma. Priya had nightmares for weeks. Lydia swore off travel for almost a year. James went from group clown to super cautious. I became the person who triple checks every detail, trusts my gut, and never, ever lets vacation brain make me ignore obvious red flags. But we survived. And in the weirdest way, it bonded us forever. Whenever anyone in our friend group complained about the worst vacation ever, we'd just look at each other and say, "Were you ever accused of being an international drug mule?" and burst out laughing. The craziest part? A month after we got back, we did a Zoom call to debrief, and ended up laughing harder than we'd ever laughed before. We survived, we learned, and against all odds, we stayed friends. So, if anyone tells you, what happens in Mexico stays in Mexico, trust me, sometimes it follows you home, and sometimes the story is so wild that you have to share it with the world. Did this crazy story have you on the edge of your seat? Want more wild, true, and totally unbelievable adventures? Smash that follow button and stay tuned. I've got more jaw-dropping story times dropping every day. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next.